Hello everyone, it's Octodraws and welcome to my first ever live action lesson. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Lesson 8. Imperfect indicative active of omega verbs. Ergan duren, onedas ergie de tonedas. Work is no disgrace, but idleness is. So work is your subject, and then it supplies this is here. There's no st. And then it says uden, no, onedas, disgrace. And then this is a strong de here, but ergie, idleness, is supplied, no esti, a disgrace, oneidas. I found this translation to be a little bit strange because it has two ises that it supplies, and then it gets rid of oneidas. And I don't really know why it does that. 41, the imperfect tense. This tense denotes action, continued, repeated, customary, or attempted in past time. Epauon, I was stopping, I keep stopping, I used to stop, I tried to stop. The imperfect indicative active. So it gives you each of the endings with on, amen, ete, on, and it gives it to you for two verbs with ago and pauo. And for a song, you have on, amen, ete, on, amen, ete, on. Hopefully that will help you memorize it. 42, formation. The imperfect tense is built on the present stem showing the variable vowel, omicron or epsilon. You can see this variable vowel or tense vowel very clearly right here and right here. And you know that it's going to be imperfect because this is an omicron and this is an epsilon. Being a secondary tense, meaning that it's in the past, it differs from the present in having 1, an augment, and 2, secondary endings. It is found only in the indicative, so you're never going to see like a participle in the imperfect. So 1, it's telling you that it has an augment, and this is your augment right here. An augment is either adding of an epsilon or the lengthening of a starting vowel. Augments can only be found in the indicative, and it has secondary endings, meaning it's not your typical o, ace, e, amen, ete, usi. Instead, you have on, s, e, men, te, and then a nu. Augment. All secondary tenses of the indicative may be recognized by what is called an augment. This is of two kinds. Secondary tense, again, meaning past, and the indicative, actually, is the only time it can receive an augment. So if it's a participle, or if it's an infinitive, it cannot have an augment. It has to be in the indicative. 1. Syllabic. Verbs with an initial consonant prefix epsilon by way of augment. An initial row is doubled after epsilon. So what this is saying is that when a verb starts with an initial consonant, it adds an epsilon to the front of it. If your word also starts with a row, it goes epsilon, row, and then the start of what would normally be the word. 2. Temporal. Verbs with an initial vowel or diphthong lengthen the initial vowel. In doing so, and then it goes through each of the different vowels and sounds, and it tells you how they're going to be augmented or lengthened. So you can see alpha becomes eta, epsilon becomes eta, omicron becomes omega, iota becomes a long iota, upsilon becomes a long upsilon, I becomes I, and I again becomes I again. But instead of it being with alphas, it becomes etas because it has to be lengthened. Au becomes eu, u becomes eu, and oi becomes oi. Inflect the imperfect indicative active of pempo and ethroidzo? I don't think I will. 44. Dative of manner. The dative may denote manner, and manner is how something is done, such as with haste or in silence is the example that they give you. Pugusi sigai. They flee in silence. You're often going to see this in or something like with whenever you see a dative of manner. 2. This is our fifth use of the dative. What were the other four? So you have something like indirect object, possession, time and place, and it with adjectives. Remember, with time and place, it's a point in time or a point in place. 45. Balanced structure. Men de are used with two words or phrases or clauses that are compared or contrasted. So it gives you this example with ha men and then ha de. But this could be feminine or neuter if you so choose. And this means the one and the other, kind of like on the one hand and then on the other hand. You also have hoi men, hoi de, meaning some and others. Ha de and hey de, meaning one but the other, Men is rarely to be translated, but is a valuable warning that a comparison or contrast is coming. So usually it's not translated, but a lot of times you're going to see something along the lines of, on the one hand, men, and then on the other hand, de, when it's contrasting two clauses or phrases. It's one of the many little words, often untranslatable, that make Greek so effective for expressing important shades of meaning. 46. Vocab. Athroidzo means to collect. Alla is a conjunction, meaning but or however. It's like de, but it's stronger. So de can mean both also, but it can mean but. Alla always means but. This final alpha is often elided, and you can see something with al, like that. Harpazo, seize, carry off, and it gives you harpy as an etymology example. I think that that's a really good example. The takers. Archaios, on. It's an adjective, and it means original or ancient. It can also just mean old. It gives you arche, which comes from the same root, meaning the beginning, and archaic, again, just old. Barbaras uha. This is one of the most important words. Foreigner, barbarian. Ergon uta, work, deed. And it gives you energy. You can see this ergon right here, n plus erg. These two words, barbaros and ergon, are both super important when you're reading Herodotus, and they're both in the first sentence where he's talking about how he's going to be detailing works of both the barbarians and the Greeks. Krauge, ace, hey, an outcry or shout. Logos, uha, word, speech. And it gives you prologue as an example. So pro, before, log, word, speech, argument, account is usually the best one for this one. Men, it's a coordinator in a conjunction, but really, like it was saying earlier, it's one of those little words, it's a particle. Sige, ace, hey, silence. Now I'm going to give you just a brief moment and do your exercises. Here we go. 47 exercises. A, what do the portions in heavy type tell as to the person and number of the subject? This new at the end means it's I or the first person. This means he, she, it, or third singular. This men ending is always going to be we, and it's the first plural. Etroidzes. This sigma means you, and it's second singular. And this te is y'all, in its second plural. Which personal endings of the imperfect are identical, which resemble the endings of the present? So here I wrote them both out. O and on aren't really super similar because this has a secondary new, whereas this one is just the O. This is similar, but this has different removable vowels, with epsilon, iota, and just epsilon here. And it's the same thing with third singular, where it's epsilon, iota, as opposed to just epsilon. Amen, amen are exactly the same in first plural. Ete and ete are exactly the same. And then you see usi and on. These are slightly different. You still have this omicron, but you lose this usi ending, and you get this secondary tense ending with on. B, translate. Etroidzes litus para ton potamon. This semicolon looking thing right here, which is a question mark. Were you collecting, and you know that it's you because of this es ending, and it's going to be in the past because it's augmented and there's no iota here. You'd expect an iota if it was in the present. So were you collecting etroidzes, litus, stones in the accusative because of this us ending, para plus accusative again, so you know that this is going to be alongside the river ton potamon. 2. Al epempamen, tain pulaken paraton adelpan. Al is going to be like de here, and it's going to mean but. You know that this is imperfect and not present because of this augment right here. We were sending. Look for our accusative because sends takes a direct object. Tain pulaken, the guard, and then para plus accusative again, alongside my brother. This can be either the brother or my brother. Greek is kind of flexible, so either is acceptable. 3. Heistratia, ein en tai komai, kai ta epitedea herpadzen. Heistratia is our subject, meaning the army. Ein was, en, preposition with dative, in the village. Tai komai. Kai, and. Now we get a second verb because it's corrected by kai. Herpadzen, was seizing. And you know that this is imperfect because of this augment, because it should be harpadzo. And then you have this epsilon with no iota at the end. And the army was seizing. Look for our accusative, ta epitedea, the provisions. 4. Hoi mengar, kraugai, ek tes agoras epugan. Hoi de sigai, Tas skenas epulaton. First off, we have this particle, gar, meaning for, men, and de. So you're going to see a comparison. So hoi men, hoi de. With that, it means some and others. So your subject, some, look for our verb, epugon. We're fleeing, kraugai, dative of manner, in a shout, ek plus genitive, from the agora. But others, because of this hoide, sigai tas skenas, epulaton. So others were guarding tas skenas, the tense, in the accusative, because it's our direct object. 5. Hoide archaioi, ekon, komas mikras, de, but, hoi archaioi, the ancients, or the old people, the ancestors, ekon, used to have, because it's in the imperfect. Notice this epsilon iota as your augment. This is going to be only for irregular verbs, but you're going to see it pretty often because a lot of the very common words have it. Used to have. Komas mikras, our accusative or direct object, meaning short hair. Kalamen ein tadora mikrade. On the one hand, men, the gifts, tadora, and since tadora is neuter, it's going to take a singular verb, ein. And Kala agrees with Tadora, so the gifts were good. And then you look at your second clause and you say de mikra, and this is still going to be aligning with Dora, but they were small. And I added an ein right here, so it's a little bit easier. So a more literal translation would be the gifts were good, but small. Tamen erga tatu barberu ein Kala hoide lagoi pilioi. On the one hand, ta erga, the deeds, and then it specifies ta, so the ones of the barbarians, ein were kala, good. And again, this is going to take a singular verb because it has a neuter plural. But the words were friendly. And I'm going to supply an ein here for were. So the words were friendly. Si, complete. Egete, ton hippon, ek tu pediu. You lead the horse out of the plain. You know, this is going to be genitive because ek only takes genitives. 2. Kai ta ergan delan ein, tois polemiuis. This one, I'm not going to lie, was a little bit tough. So even the work was clear because it's an adjective, you would expect a dative afterwards to the people who are polemic or people who are enemyly. I don't know why it gives you polemios instead of polemois, but beggars can't be choosers. I didn't write this textbook. 3. Hade kraugai epugen estain komin. Hade meaning he. So he, epugen, fled. And you know that it's third person singular, so it's this end ending. And you need this new because ace, the next word, starts with a vowel. Kraugai, dative of manner. Ace only takes an accusative, so tain komein. I hope you're ready to write in Greek, because I sure am. It's so great. D, write in Greek. The army was friendly to the country. He stratia in pilia tai komai. So the armies are subject, and that has to be nominative. Was translates directly to ein. Then pilia has to match up with stratia, so it has to be feminine, nominative, singular. And then tai komai, this too is a dead giveaway that it should be dative. They guard the provisions for 10 days. So they guard gets translated to pulatusi. The provisions, since it's your direct object, is going to be in the accusative, ta epitedea, and then for 10 days is going to be an accusative of time, so because for shows that it's a duration that happens over a period, so tas hemeras. 3. On account of the treaty, we do not wish to destroy the village. On account of is dia, and then dia only takes a genitive when it's on account of, so ton spondon, because spondon in the plural means treaty. It's a little bit confusing. We wish translates to etelamen, not translates to ook. So this oo could either be oo or ook depending on where you put it. For me, I put it before etelamen, therefore it needs to have this kappa. I apologize, I missed another letter. To destroy harpadzain, the village. Tain komein. So this is an infinitive, so to destroy, and that's why you have this ein ending. Then the village is the direct object of destroy, Therefore, it has to be in the accusative. Tain komein. 4. The garrison flees 10 stades. So the garrison, this is our subject in the nominative, he pulake, flees puge, and then accusative of extent, deca stadia. Indeca does not change because it is indeclinable. It has an a ending because it's accusative plural. 5. There are provisions in the tent. Ein ta epitedea, entai skenai. So when you want to say there were, you can just put an ein. And then provisions is going to be in the nominative because it's the subject. Ta epitedea. In translates to en, and en then only takes a dative, so tai skenai. 48. Greek as a world language. A. The international language of the first century of our era was Greek. To carry its message to the world, therefore, the New Testament was written in Greek. The following passage is from St. Luke, and St. Luke is my personal favorite gospel. And just a side note, this international language that they're talking about is what's called a lingua franca, meaning, here's the verse. Ha men agatas anthropos, ek tu agatu thesaru, tes cardias propere, ta agaton hade paneros, ek tu paneru, ta paneron. I really wish that it didn't have all of these notes in between because I think it makes it actually harder to translate. On the one hand, a good man brings forth good from his heart and from a good treasure. Propere is our brings forth, but an evil man, I'm going to supply anthropos here, brings forth evil from evil. Thesauros ton Athenaion. There was more wealth at Delphi than anywhere else in Greece. Many states maintained treasuries to house their offerings to Apollo and display their own power. I wish that it said, like, treasuries meant thesauros. I don't know why it gives you, like, quotation marks without actually explicitly pointing it out, but it doesn't. But now you know. And you know, if they did do that, there'd be no reason for you to watch these videos. And as you can see, I've actually been to Delphi. This is the second time they've shown Delphi in this book, and you already kind of saw a picture of me there, but here's another. B, word formation. The Christian religion not only was transmitted through Greek, its theology was shaped by Greek philosophy and its language and thought by Greek words. Hundreds of ecclesiastical terms now in use came from Greek. And it gives you these examples: Christ, Bible, Episcopalian, anthem, hierarchy, cathedral, liturgy, and Pentateuch, atheist, apostate, martyr, neophyte, hypocrite, laity, canon, and the like. That is so many words. Anthem means a verse or a response. Hierarchy is the sacred rule. Hier meaning sacred. Archi meaning rule. Cathedral, so kata meaning down. And this is actually sedes, like in Latin, a seat, a chair. And that's what in Indo-European, the H and the S are pretty much interchangeable. Liturgy meaning public in duty, and it has the same root as laity, which just means public, so the normal people, the people who aren't priests. So liturgy is the work done for the people. And even though it doesn't look like lit and late are the same root, they are. Then Pentateuch, the 5 vessels, and this vessel word later means a book. So this word means both a vessel and it also means a roll of scrolls. So the 5 rolls of scrolls, or the 5 great books, the first 5. Atheist, no, and God, you know, a already means not. Apa, state, so this means to stand away. Apa, away. A martyr is a witness coming directly from marturos. Neophyte, newly planted, coming from nea, meaning new. And fuo, meaning to grow. Or it's also used for someone like a sprout. So a neophyte is your new convert. You have hypocrite, which is under decide, and you're going to see this a lot, that hupa is usually used with like underhanded stuff or something that's not actually very good. Laity, we already went over. And then canon comes from a rod or bar, so it's really any straight rod or bar, and it later becomes to mean rule. So the rules of the church is what's canon. Another thing that it doesn't bring up, but one that I really like, it has the same root as cathedral, is ex cathedra. Ex cathedra meaning from the chair, meaning from the chair of the Pope. And cathedral, down in chair, and the reason why it's down in chair is because it's thorough, so the big chair, and the big chair is where the bishop sits, therefore cathedral. So how many similar derivatives can you supply from these Greek words that you have already had? So logos, you have philology and decalogue. Apa gets used in the word apostle. So apa plus stello, to send away. Exodus, so ex meaning from, and hodos meaning road, as it says right there. Para is used in something like parable. Angel, believe it or not, goes right to angel. And then this is one of my favorite ones, dia. So dia is used for the word diocese, even though it doesn't look like it, it is. And diocese actually used to mean just about the same thing as economy. So dia plus oikos, so the rules of the house, and then oikos and nomos, also rules of the house. So oikos meaning house and nomos meaning rules. So diocese and economy are two very etymologically similar words. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the first ever live action lesson. And remember, be positive, be yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.